Did you know that Sharon Stone, the iconic bombshell from Basic Instinct, was so irresistible that she allegedly seduced not just one, but two United States presidents? She had the leaders of the free world tripping over themselves just for a chance. And those White House scandals are just the tip of the iceberg. Her dizzying trail of flings, marriages, and rumored hookups reads like an X-rated fever dream torn from the velvet-lined imagination of a porn novelist. Let's go all the way back to the beginning of Sharon's rise in the entertainment world. By 1984, this determined beauty had caught a huge break, being cast in a TV movie where she first crossed paths with the man who would become her first husband, Michael Greenberg. Spoiler alert, this whirlwind romance made absolutely no sense whatsoever. One minute, Sharon and this film producer were just casual co-workers. Then, literally a few months later, they were suddenly walking down the aisle in a bizarre shotgun-style wedding. Yes, that's right. Sharon married a guy she had only known for a matter of weeks, in some bizarre, impulsive decision fueled by, well, to this day, no one can really figure out what drove them together so quickly. Friends on both sides were utterly baffled. But as you'll quickly learn, hasty romantic decisions driven more by lust than logic became a pattern for Stone over the years. There are secret details on multiple other men she dated or married seemingly on a weird whim, only for the relationship to predictably implode soon after. Speaking of bizarre romantic choices, brace yourself because you're not going to believe who Sharon allegedly had a steamy affair with at the height of her Basic Instinct fame and marriage to her second husband. This public figure was one of the most famous and powerful men in the world at the time. When whispers of his torrid fling with the smoldering movie star first started leaking to the press, it created a bona fide political scandal. You could practically hear pearls being clutched across all of Washington, D.C. It was 1992, and at 34 years old, Sharon Stone was red-hot off the career-making success of Basic Instinct. The erotic thriller had minted her as both a major sex symbol and a respected actress, seemingly overnight. Studios were salivating to work with her, the press couldn't get enough of her, and it appears the already controversial President of the United States at the time was powerless to resist her charms as well. According to multiple insider accounts, Clinton was so smitten after first locking eyes with the blonde bombshell that he actively began pursuing her for a romantic relationship. We're talking about extensive flirtatious phone calls, inviting her over to the White House at odd hours, the whole 9 yards. And if you thought that was already too unbelievable and tawdry, just wait until you hear the really lurid details about what finally culminated between the two. Sources claim Sharon and Clinton eventually did hop into bed together, engaging in what was described as a drug-fueled, utterly depraved night of passion. One person who caught wind of the episode likened the sounds and scenes they witnessed to something out of an X-rated film. Clinton was so carried away at points that he even, well, let's just say he took things to shocking extremes no married man should with his mistress, let alone the president with a freaking movie star. Of course, Clinton wasn't the only chart-topping male celebrity powerhouse who fell for Sharon Stone's irresistible allure and bedroom skills during her 1990s heyday. Oh no, she was just getting warmed up on her path of romantic conquest and carnal achievements. I'm talking about the one and only Mick Jagger, lead singer of the Rolling Stones and easily one of the most iconic and legendary musical artists in history. This rake's rake built an equally iconic reputation over the decades for his prodigious sexual exploits and constant bedding of gorgeous models and actresses. So just imagine the pandemonium that must have erupted when Mick finally met his match in Sharon Stone. Two of the biggest sex symbols and superstar personalities from their respective industries coming together in an unholy union. This wasn't just going to be any ordinary fling. But let's rewind a bit first, because the road to this controversial hookup was just as jaw-dropping as the actual relationship itself. Mick Jagger had harbored an obsession with Sharon ever since her career-making role in Basic Instinct. He was so entranced by her smoldering portrayal of a bisexual femme fatale that he simply had to have her as his own personal muse and lover. So Mick allegedly began an intense pursuit of Sharon through relentless phone calls, letters, gifts, you name it. At first, she was taken aback by his aggressiveness, but like so many before her, she eventually fell under the spell of Jagger's legendary charisma, and well, other assets we'll get into in a moment. Once Sharon finally surrendered to Mick's charms, They wasted no time ripping each other's clothes off and engaging in what can only be described as an intense, no-holds-barred obsession that bordered on mania. Friends reported constantly happening upon the couple in the throes of passion in the most unexpected public venues. Restaurants, backstage at concerts, parks. It seemed no location was off-limits to their exhibitionist kinks. And speaking of kinks, what I'm about to share next is easily the most salacious, unbelievable aspect of Sharon and Mick's insatiable sexual relationship. But I'll warn you, some of the details are so perverse and deviant that they could potentially disturb those with delicate sensibilities. According to two very credible sources with inside access, Sharon and Mick allegedly began taking part in occult rituals and demonic sex practices towards the end of their romance. We're talking arcane ceremonies, black magic, and ritualistic orgies, the kinds of twisted depravities that would make even the most seasoned deviant blush. One participant claimed Sharon became possessed by a carnal demon during the height of these ceremonies, attacking her partner in a drug-fueled frenzy of violent ecstasy and bloodletting that still gives them night terrors over 25 years later. Mick was allegedly so smitten that he willingly allowed the demons to hold sway over them both during these manic episodes. I know, that's certainly enough salacious details for one relationship, right? Well, brace yourselves, because we've only started to scratch the surface when it comes to Sharon's litany of shocking romantic entanglements and supposed occult interests. There's still her rumored dalliances with rock stars, A-list actors, sports icons, and at least one other globally recognized political figure to come. The next part is going to venture into truly uncharted territory for celebrity exposés as we examine whispers that the unstoppable Sharon Stone seduced a real-life prince and took part in an underground, eyes-wide-shut style elite sex club. The depraved details about both of these legends will legitimately make your jaw hit the floor. You won't want to miss a second of it. Let's dive into the rumors that persisted for years about Sharon having a clandestine affair with not just any old person, but an actual prince from Saudi Arabian royalty. That's right, the infamously raunchy movie star may have carried on a romance fit for Arabian Nights with one of the wealthiest, most elite eligible bachelors in the world. From what was pieced together from private messages, tabloid blind items, and off-the-record interviews, the mysterious prince first became infatuated with Sharon after watching one of her typically racy on-screen performances. Whether it was the infamous leg-crossing scene from Basic Instinct or some other example of Sharon's signature sensuality, he was hooked. Through back channels and his vast wealth, the prince was able to arrange a real-life rendezvous with the insatiable Sharon. What followed was an illicit, globe-trotting courtship that saw them escape to some of the most lavish locales you can imagine to indulge their every whim and sexual fantasy. From the prince's personal yacht in Monaco to royal suites in Dubai, no desire was too taboo, no request too outrageous for these two seemingly disparate yet perfectly matched hedonists. I'll spare you the most scandalous details, but let's just say Sharon earned herself a very distinctive nickname amongst the prince's servants. Of course, the Saudi royal family couldn't have been too pleased about their prince's torrid dalliances with a Hollywood Scarlet woman. But if they knew the truth about the other secret society Sharon was allegedly involved with, it would have likely sparked an international crisis. I'm talking about the elite underground sex club that several credible sources claimed Sharon was an eager participant in during her single days in the 1990s. No, I'm not referring to some run-of-the-mill high-end swingers club available to any big city elite. This was the real deal, a covert, internationally organized society built around unimaginable decadence, privilege, and depravity. One insider described it as a real-world version of the infamous Eyes Wide Shut secret society. A group of the wealthiest, most powerful figures across the globe, coming together to indulge their absolute darkest desires and urges, all under a massive veil of secrecy, threats of violence, and supposed occult mysticism that makes the earlier Mick Jagger claims look tame by comparison. The source candidly admitted that merely saying the society's name out loud is enough to spark extortion or blackmail from the upper echelons of the organization. So you can only imagine the unmentionable acts that Sharon may have eagerly taken part in alongside global royalty, CEOs, politicians. For now, let's avoid any specifics that could make us run afoul of that underground cabal, if you catch my drift. But let's just say that those eyebrow-raising occult claims and ritualistic sex acts from Sharon's Mick Jagger days may have only been an introduction to the real depths of depravity she eventually immersed herself in. And while we're on the subject of alleged introductions, the next part will become a shocking exposé on yet another iconic rock star whose friendship with Sharon supposedly opened the gateway to an entire new world of boundary-pushing sensuality and kink. From that pivotal relationship, Sharon seemed to descend into realms of indulgence and sexual obsession that very few celebrities would dare. By now, you've been taken on a shockingly salacious journey through Sharon Stone's most unbelievable romantic entanglements and sexual escapades. From her alleged occult pact with Mick Jagger to whispers of her carrying on an affair with Saudi royalty, to the mere mention of the underground elite sex society she may have been involved with, I've barely scratched the surface of depravity. And just when you thought Sharon's trail of hedonism couldn't get any more extreme, it's time to dive into her friendship with one of music's most iconic and controversial figures. A relationship that many believe kicked off Sharon's descent into the darkest, kinkiest realms of human desire. I'm talking about none other than Marilyn Manson, the Antichrist superstar himself, the god of fuck, who became a pariah to conservative America in the 90s due to his sacrilegious, intentionally blasphemous stage personas and shock rock imagery. To the moral majority, he embodied their worst nightmares about rebellious, hypersexualized youth culture. So just imagine the controversy when this already reviled figure began appearing on red carpets and in public, hand in hand with Sharon Stone herself, one of Hollywood's biggest actresses and a global sex symbol. It caused moralists' heads to spin and the rumor mill to go into overdrive about what kind of unthinkable bacchanalian activities this unlikely pair must have been getting up to. And according to multiple former members of Manson's inner circle, the whispers didn't even come close to capturing the true depths of Stone and Manson's seemingly bottomless well of deviance. Manson allegedly opened Sharon's mind to realms of depravity she neither knew existed, all fueled by an endless stream of narcotics, mysticism, and an apparent hellmouth of insatiable lust. Together, the pair are accused of partaking in orgies and rituals that defiled every last taboo in stomach-churning fashion. Sharon's introduction to Manson's brand of militant psychosexuality and recreational drug use marked one of the true points of no return in her descent into, well, madness and addiction problems later in life. Speaking of introductions, well, the world watched in disbelief as Sharon fraternized with Manson's band of cultural terrorists. Little did they know that their dear 90s it girl was already being inducted into an even more elite, diabolical sect at the exact same time, one that would make Manson's Antichrist shtick look quaint. I'm talking, of course, about the whispers that Stone became a willing participant in the same shadowy, globally connected underground sex cult we discussed last time. The one built around satisfying the most depraved urges of kings, oligarchs, and power players through ritualistic orgies, occult practices, and supposed magic. Yes, sources indicate that Manson acted as Stone's literal guide into joining this centuries-spanning cabal of influential elite, all while America merely gawked at his famous friend's controversial taste in dinner companions. By now, you've been taken down a shockingly salacious rabbit hole of Sharon Stone's most unbelievable flings, affairs, and debauched indulgences. From her occult sexual pact with Mick Jagger, to alleged dalliances with Saudi royalty and elite underground sex societies, to her depraved initiation under the guidance of Marilyn Manson himself, we've barely scratched the surface of Stone's limitless well of depravity. And just when you thought the tales of this unquenchable vixen's ravenous romantic pursuits couldn't get any more unspeakably sordid, it's time to unveil some of the most scandalous whispers about her relentless seduction of male power players and A-list celebrities. Let's pick up where we left off by addressing that other president Sharon is rumored to have hooked up with during her smoldering 90s heyday. An infamous philanderer whose drunken reputation for sexual impropriety marked a stark contrast to the classy, noble political image he tried to project to the world. I'm talking, of course, about George W. Bush, the 43rd President of the United States and scion of one of the Republican Party's most powerful dynasties. According to reports from multiple credible sources, the former commander-in-chief found himself entranced by Stone's signature femme fatale aura during a chance backstage encounter at a Washington elite gala. Just picture the scene, a drunk, lascivious George W. leaning in to lay a sloppy kiss on Sharon's plush lips, while she flashed that trademark smoldering gaze his way. It was a fateful meeting that kicked off a torrid fling between the leader of the free world and one of the biggest sex symbols in Hollywood. Two controversial figures acting on their basest impulses. But W was just the start of Sharon's rumored romp through every echelon of elite society. Over the years, whispers also circulated of her intimate entanglement with everyone, from billionaire producers like Steve Bing to legendary hip-hop artists and entertainers. Speaking of hip-hop, few celebrity romantic connections generated more buzz than the rampant speculation surrounding Sharon and Tupac Shakur's relationship behind closed doors. The tantalizing union of a white Hollywood screen queen with the talented but troubled lion of 90s rap seemed almost too delicious for gossip mongers to resist. And as our investigation into Sharon's utterly unrestrained libido deepens, we uncover even more shocking claims about her supposed intimate affairs with all manner of high-profile public figures. We're talking Hollywood megastars, chart-topping musicians, sports legends, you name it, and this blonde bombshell had likely already sampled their most forbidden fruits at one point or another. Case in point, for years, whispers persisted that Sharon Stone enjoyed a steamy locker room affair with one of the most successful basketball players to ever lace up and hit the hardwood. An iconic figure who became just as renowned for his wild romantic entanglements as his brilliant court game. According to numerous locker room attendants and anonymous team staffers, this particular hoops phenom became utterly besotted with Stone at the height of her Basic Instinct success and reputation as Hollywood's bedroom kryptonite. So much so that he began actively seducing her during road trips through her hometown of Los Angeles, leaving a trail of used condom wrappers and satisfied smiles in his wake. These reported dalliances are still only scratching the surface in terms of the sheer amount of sordid dirt Sharon supposedly got her hands into over her iconic career. Up next, in the climactic final chapter, you'll hear even more jaw-dropping rumors about her rumored entanglements with. But be warned, some of the claims you're about to be exposed to are so utterly unrestrained in their deviance that they may very well disturb and unsettle even the most jaded pop culture consumers out there. Still, I must rip off the veil of secrecy once and for all to reveal Sharon Stone's wildest, most boundary-obliterating rumored romantic and sexual escapades. So get ready for one last delirious descent into the heart of Hollywood decadence. The climactic chapter in our exploration of every single person Sharon Stone ever dated, married, or hooked up with is just around the corner. Let's address Stone's rumored torrid entanglement with one of the most controversial and wildly famous cult leaders in modern times. A self-anointed, intelligent spiritual guru who preyed on disaffected youth through his messianic cult of personality, earning him a rabid global following of blindly devoted acolytes along the way. I'm talking about none other than the infamous Osho, an Indian godman and charlatan whose doctrines centered around achieving enlightenment through unrestrained freeing of one's core desires, including, according to the whispers surrounding Sharon Stone's involvement with him, an unfettered exploration of her most taboo, sensual, and erotic fantasies. According to former cult members, Sharon spent an extended period of time at Osho's compound pursuing spiritual guidance through marathon intimacy training sessions engineered to obliterate every last ounce of shame she may have had left. Graphic testimonials allege she took part in ritualistic orgies, psychedelic drug binges, even occult-flavored therapy designed to exorcise any mental blocks from her path to total beinglessness. Of course, given her reputation as a heavenly body of hedonism for the rich and powerful, it was only a matter of time before Hollywood's elite began using their privilege and influence to sexually coerce Sharon herself into compromising situations. And I'm not just talking about more alleged affairs with highly successful actors and musicians either. No, the most explosive accusations surrounding Stone's intimate involvements point to her allegedly falling victim to several high-profile producers and Hollywood executives' well-known patterns of sexually predatory behavior. Anonymous sources suggest she was pressured into demeaning sexual auditions and vulgar quid pro quo scenarios by men who used their professional leverage to turn her into little more than an on-set plaything between shooting taboo nude scenes. One particularly harrowing account describes the immense trauma Sharon experienced after being aggressively coerced into taking part in a terrifying orgy with an entire crew of men. The details are frankly too disturbing to recount in full here. Just know that the profound sexual and emotional abuse described left emotional scars that haunted her for years after the fact, according to the source. all in exchange for a role that likely further empowered her male abusers' already overinflated egos and libidos. By now, you're likely reeling from the sheer amount of extremely graphic, disturbing, and unverified claims made about the true nature of Sharon Stone's id. And yet, I'm still merely scratching the surface in terms of the sheer volume of salacious hearsay surrounding the actress's interpersonal affairs and vices. So, while I'll have to put a pin in sharing those particular rumors for now, know that this isn't even close to the end of Sharon Stone's sordid romantic and sexual exploits being dragged out into the harsh light of day.